Hello to my public speaking class. My name is Lila Omantrawi, and today for my advocacy speech, I will be talking about why Islamophobia is accepted. Islamophobia propaganda groups were paid $40 million from 7 foundations over the past 10 years in the United States. In the United States, they have weaved their way into the legislation and government policies. This means that less support and justice will be given to Muslims. This is not a good look for America. Because of 9/11, many people target Islamic people based off on how they look and their religious beliefs, which makes them a part of the problem. This is America. We have so many ethnicities around us each day. Muslims are human too. They come to America to be free and accepted, not to be disrespected. My dad is Muslim. He traveled to New York on a student visa. After 9/11 happened, New Jerseyans and New Yorkers called him a terrorist because of the way he looked. He would also get routinely questioned at the airport because of his name. Imagine having the constant fear as a young child that your dad might get mistreated or discriminated every time you go out with him. Well, I can say it's not easy. Islamophobia has existed everywhere in different countries and has been strongly endorsed in American society since 9/11. It's become a tool for politicians to gain support. Our current government, the British Parliament, and certain Islamophobic organizations have been accepting ways to eliminate and humiliate the minority group. It has spread across the countries besides the United States, which is why Great Britain is a great example for this statement. This speech will discuss the spreading of Islamophobia after 9/11 in the Americas, how it's a bigger issue from other countries, how politicians are using it to their advantage, and us as a society to make the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crime Prevention Act more powerful. The people that are in charge of the country usually influence their citizens to give them liberties on how to speak or act. Since the ones in charge have all the power, they can get away for their uncanny actions or sayings towards anyone, including minorities. Our President Donald Trump and Prime Minister of Great Britain Boris Johnson project Islamophobia all the time on the news and social media. Their cabinets and citizens included Islamophobic actions as well. Creating a scapegoat or common enemy is a useful tool for politicians to stay in power, gain popularity, distract from their terrible policies, and promote their own self-interests. Islamophobia is free and always has been from the start. From the Guardian article, they stated that a dossier also includes allegations against Boris Johnson himself, who has previously apologized for describing Muslim women wearing face-covering veils as looking like letter boxes. The Muslim Council of Britain highlighted the role of Dominic Cummings, Prime Minister de facto chief, for having responsibility for the Spectator website when a controversial cartoon of Prophet Muhammad with a bomb in his turban with a caption saying Muslim takeover. From 2018 to 2019, England and Wales, with a combined population that's 20% of that from the United States, had 103,379 reported hate incidents. The Trump administration's attempt to ban citizens of several Muslim-majority countries from entering the United States had some key differences between the houses that have ultimately swung some justices in favor of upholding the executive order. In USA Today, Mogahid goes on to tell a story about how she was sitting next to a white woman, and the woman tells the young girl sitting next to her that she would never be subjugated to any religion that tells women they are inferior and have to wear a veil. Another source from the NY Intelligencer stated that Ilhan Omar commented about 9/11, referring the attacks as some people who did something and how they would justify criminalizing Muslims. Donald Trump shared an inflammatory video that interspersed her words with the footage of the planes colliding with the Twin Towers as a response. The main source that helped people frame this topic in our society as are Islamic network groups, lobbyists and experts that pay someone in the government to support them. In return, they support that candidate's campaign. Islamophobia network experts spread ignorance towards Muslims to anyone they can and travel to different places to get more supporters. In another recent article, they stated that out of all the 4 types of Islamophobia, the United States leans towards limiting the rights of political rights to Muslims and intentional prejudice. This profile looks more closely at the practices of the United States Islamophobia movement at the political level. Islamophobia movement uses law as a strategy, framing the anti-Muslim movement, which raises concern. A report from Gallup Center of Muslim Studies in 2010 showed 43% of all Americans still acknowledge prejudice against Islam, a decade after 9/11. Another report said in 2011 that 40% of Americans believe that the values of Islam are at odds with the American values. The United States government and Islamophobic organizations believe that Islam and the Sharia, a form of Islamic law, does not belong in the United States Constitution. However, our First Amendment involves freedom of speech. Oklahoma's 2010 anti-Sharia bill, which was declared unconstitutional, is a violation of the First Amendment in the United States Constitution. More specifically, freedom of religion. Islamophobia has been framed in our society and government for so long, we can consciously use this knowledge and find ways to fight against the issue. If we see a Muslim near us that doesn't look threatening, we should use the act of kindness instead of calling them a terrorist. The Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Prevention Act should be more effective and used to its advantage for innocent minorities that are attacked every day. American citizens should not be getting away with emotionally and physically attacking one another because they are simply different. In the SPLC, they also say how providing funding for the first time for grants authorized under the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crime Prevention Act to promote federal coordination and support for hate crimes investigations and prosecutions by state and local tribal enforcement officials. A recent CNN article reported how teen girls were recently charged with hate crimes after police stated that they attacked a woman on a New York bus, made anti-Asian statements towards the woman, and told her she caused the coronavirus. This is the enforcement we should be seeing, and a representation of why xenophobia rockets after a national crisis that happens across the country. The coronavirus is very similar to the 9/11 because after 9/11 happened, a lot of people started targeting Muslims. And now that the coronavirus is happening, people are starting to target Asians. This law will make a change in our society if we expand an organization for people to support the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crime Prevention Act and expose other foundations and the governments that have financially built theirs off of Islamophobia and framed it into society. Islamophobia should not be framed in our politics anymore. It's 2020 and people are still staying quiet towards this issue. How is it that we admire their cultures but still treat them badly? This is hypocrisy. If it was the other way around, we would hate being in Middle Eastern people's shoes. Various aspects in our governments and worldwide politicians make Muslims an easy target for everything. Islamophobic organizations are the main source for this topic. Respect for human equality is a very important aspect in our world. The solution to helping this problem is to consciously be careful about what we say to others and making this law come into effect. I believe we can do this as a society if we just simply try.